The microphone hums to life. A gentle chime ushers in your presence. Welcome, dear listeners, intones our omniscient guide, voice smooth as velvet. Tonight, you'll step into a world of crystal chandeliers and candlelit secrets. But first, a soft pause beckons. Before we begin, tell me where you're listening from in the comments. The question hangs, an invitation to weave your own story into this tapestry of opulence. Behind the velvet curtain, the keys to an extraordinary tale lie waiting. The hum of a private jet engine, the rustle of silk gowns, the distant echo of steps across marble floors. You can almost taste the champagne bubbles on your tongue. Are you ready for a journey that will thrill, betray, and ultimately reignite the hope in every heart? Ready? Let's begin, but first, what secret do you suppose lies beyond that ellipsis? The grand elevator doors slid open onto a floor of polished marble veined in gold. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen constellations, each studded prism catching the light of 1,000 candles. Soft strains of a string quartet drifted through arched doorways into the vast ballroom. Velvet-draped tables bore silver trays of truffled hors d'oeuvres, and walls of floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering skyline beyond. A hush fell as the valet in midnight blue tailcoat announced, "Welcome to Hawthorne Industries' annual gala for sustainable agriculture." In that instant, the guests, society's most powerful magnates and socialites, ceased their murmurs and clinks of champagne flutes. At one silk-draped table, socialite siblings in Dior whispered about newest biotech patents. The patrician matriarch, Lady Beatrice Sinclair, raised a perfectly arched eyebrow and sipped her champagne. Nearby, a trio of journalists jostled for the best vantage on the stage. The lighting dimmed, and a hush ran through the crowd. A single spotlight illuminated the marble dais, where two towering sculptures of wheat sheaves stood sentinel. Gold-trimmed velvet curtains parted slowly, revealing the host. Lucas Hawthorne appeared in bespoke tuxedo, his presence as magnetic as the giant starship he'd chartered from Paris. He offered a brief nod, then raised his glass. Each gesture was measured, precise, calculated to disarm jealousy and command respect. In a low, resonant voice, he spoke the evening's purpose, celebrating innovation in food production, forging alliances to feed the world sustainably. His words echoed off the marble columns, stirring a swell of applause. Cameras flashed, documenting each moment for tomorrow's headlines. Above the guests, the penthouse rooftop stretched open to the night sky. Hidden from view by draped trellises, the state-of-the-art hydroponic garden thrived under LED grow lights, Lucas's secret passion project. Tonight, it would be unveiled. Flanking the dais, crystal wine goblets trembled in expectant hands. The aroma of white truffle mingled with scented candles, jasmine and sandalwood, suffusing every breath with luxury. Velvet ropes marked off the adjoining cocktail terrace, where servers offered gold-dusted macarons. At the edge of the crowd stood Maya Sinclair, guest curator and botanical artist. She wore a gown of deep emerald silk that caught the light like dew on leaves. In her gloved hand, she held a single sprig of baby spinach, her gift to the host. Her heart thrummed beneath the layers of lace. Surrounded by gilded pedigree, she felt acutely out of place, yet strangely drawn to Lucas's quiet authority. Earlier, he'd praised her for coaxing life from urban concrete. Tonight, their collaboration would launch his rooftop farm to the world. A hush returned as Lucas unfastened a small remote. "Ladies and gentlemen," he intoned, "prepare to witness our future." With a click, the curtains parted further, revealing steps leading up to the rooftop's secret entrance. Gasps rippled through the audience as the sculpted trellises parted like stage wings. LED lights blinked on, casting a soft green glow. A faint hum rose, like distant thunder. Servers paused mid-pour, guests held their breath. From the rooftop came a faint melody, indistinct at first, then clearer. A gentle song, lilting and pure. No musician was in view. The notes seemed to drift down through the ventilation panels. Heads tilted, brows furrowed in curiosity. Maya's breath caught. That was her voice. She recognized the lullaby she'd sung to her seedlings each dawn. Her ankles trembled inside her stilettos. Why had Lucas chosen to broadcast her private ritual? Suddenly, a cluster of reporters surged forward, cameras flashing crazily. "Who's that singing?" one shouted. "Is this part of the program?" Their voices echoed off the marble, turning polite surprise into eager speculation. A hush spun into a buzz. Guests exchanged incredulous glances. The quartet faltered on a chord, then stopped altogether. All attentions snapped upward. toward the rooftop hatch now illuminated in emerald light. Lucas remained on the dais, face inscrutable. In one hand he held the remote, in the other the glass he'd barely sipped. His eyes gleamed as he leaned forward, as though peering through the very night air. Maya's pulse thundered. She pressed a gloved hand to her chest, fingertips brushing the spinach sprig pinned to her gown. A bead of sweat slid down her spine beneath the gown's delicate fabric. What did this mean for her, for him, for the crowd of billionaires and baronesses? Would her secret be lauded or ridiculed? Then, without warning, the rooftop hatch swung open, and a soft silhouette emerged into the emerald glow. A single lantern in hand, the figure paused. And then, every eye in the room turned. Maya Sinclair's earliest memories smelled of damp soil and sun-warmed clay. As a child, she'd rise before dawn in her grandmother's tiny backyard plot, fingers stained brown, coaxing radishes and basil from the earth. She listened most days to her grandmother's gentle hum, a melody that felt like hope itself, while winds whispered through the tomato vines. Even then, Maya believed that life could flourish anywhere, given patience and care. Years later, those formative mornings shaped her every decision. She learned to draw plans for raised beds on scraps of notebook paper beneath flickering streetlights, dreaming of gardens on school rooftops and abandoned lots. At 12, she convinced her neighbors to let her transform a vacant lot into a riot of greens, kale, Swiss chard, and okra bursting through cracked asphalt. The neighborhood watched in amazement as birds returned, and children tasted vegetables they'd never before imagined. By 16, Maya's reputation as a green alchemist had spread beyond the block. Local reporters profiled the teen who grew peppers in old tires. City officials offered her a grant to teach composting workshops. But success felt bittersweet. Every interview reminded her of the peeling paint on her own apartment walls, the nights she fell asleep to the hum of traffic instead of lullabies. She wondered, could one woman's garden ever feed an entire metropolis? At university, Maya pursued sustainable agriculture with fervor. Her classmates envied her boundless energy. She'd map out irrigation systems in her sleep, sketch nutrient cycles in the margins of lecture notes. Professors praised her vision. Peers admired her quiet resolve. Yet behind her bright smile lay long nights spent balancing part-time jobs and grants, designing experiments in borrowed lab space. Every triumph was shadowed by debt notices, and the fear she'd let down the community that believed in her. When she first heard of Lucas Hawthorne's vertical farm initiative, skepticism warred with opportunity. Here was a man with resources to turn her rooftop gardens into sprawling, world-changing enterprises. But at what cost? Friends cautioned against entanglement with a billionaire's empire. Her grandmother advised, remember why you started, child, for the wonder, not the wealth. Maya carried those words like seeds in her pocket, unsure which would sprout. Despite her doubts, Maya's passion won out. She accepted Lucas's invitation to consultancy, envisioning green corridors threading the penthouse rooftops of high-rises. In private, she practiced her signature lullaby, an old family tune, beneath rows of spinach seedlings, hoping the plants, too, would respond to music. At night she dreamed of vines reaching skyward, of corporate boardrooms demanding taste tests instead of power plays. Through it all, Lucas watched. From behind polished glass walls, he observed her gentle ministrations, the way her fingertips traced leaf veins, the quiet hum that drifted through his hydroponic chambers. His mind catalogued every detail, storing them for moments like tonight, when ostentation met sincerity under glimmering chandeliers. He recognized in Maya what he'd once lost, the thrill of creation untainted by profit margins. Maya recalled her first encounter with Lucas, a brisk handshake in a sterile conference room, promises of revolutionizing food security. She'd studied his stoic expression, searching for warmth, but saw only ambition. Yet when she left, the spring in her step felt lighter. Hope had taken root in even the most unlikely soil. Back in her modest studio apartment, Maya pinned a wilted spinach leaf to her corkboard, alongside a photograph of her grandmother's garden gate. She whispered the lullaby into the night, imagining that anywhere life sprouted, music should follow. On the walls hung her blueprints, rooftop terraces transformed into edible jungles, lecture slides annotated with hand-drawn vines. Now, standing in Lucas's ballroom, Maya felt those memories swirl like dust motes in late afternoon sun. Each polished pane of glass reminded her of lessons learned in marginal soil. Each chandelier droplet echoed the glimmer in her grandmother's eyes. She wondered if the world beyond these walls would ever see gardens as symbols of unity instead of mere curiosities. Midway through her reverie, a soft chime of her phone vibrated inside her clutch. A message flashed. "They're asking about you. Is this performance or protest?" Maya tapped her lips, heart fluttering like a hummingbird. "What would you do in Maya's shoes? Comment below." Her gaze drifted back to Lucas as he descended the marble dais, remote in hand and eyes fixed on the rooftop hatch. Every step he took felt weighted with unspoken promise and peril. Maya clutched the spinach sprig at her gown, the edges of its leaves brushing her palm like a delicate pact. She remembered the final night before departing for this gala. Her grandmother's voice rasping through the phone's speaker, "Be true to your roots, Maya, no matter how high you climb." Maya pressed her hand to her heart, feeling the echo of those words beneath the lace of her gown. Beyond the ballroom's vast windows, the city lights shimmered like constellations fallen to earth. Somewhere, an empty rooftop waited, and in Maya's mind bloomed a single question. Could one humble song transform even the highest towers? As the lantern atop the rooftop hatch swung toward Maya in emerald light, her breath caught in her throat, anticipation and dread entwined. Yet one secret remained buried beneath the surface. The elevator's soft whoosh gave way to dry mechanical clicks as Lucas Hawthorne stepped onto the rooftop terrace. Beneath the moonlit canopy, rows of chrome-plated hydroponic panels gleamed, each tube pulsing with the promise of verdant bounty. Tonight was their grand reveal, the moment investors and influencers would rally behind his vision of urban farming. Yet as he moved toward the control console, a soft melody drifted up from the hidden garden alcove. It was unmistakable, a tender lullaby, voice clear and steady, threading through the ventilation grates. Lucas paused, hand inches from the touchscreen. He listened, brows knitting. Each note was intimate, rhythmic, a song of nurturing more than showmanship. Below in the ballroom, guests murmured in anticipation of Lucas's keynote. Cameras were poised, champagne flutes half raised. But here, at the apex of the city, time slowed. The hum of pumps and the drip of nutrient solution faded into silence, replaced by the gentle cadence of Maya Sinclair's song. Lucas swiped the console to map live audio feeds. A faint reading glowed, Zone C vocals detected. He leaned in, heart pulsing at odds with his usual detachment. Unexpected warmth unfurled in his chest, an echo of something long dormant. Footsteps echoed on the grated floor as he skirted the LED grow lights. Through a lattice of basil and baby spinach, he glimpsed her. Maya, draped in the emerald glow, palms brushing tenderly over leafy sprouts as she sang. Her head tipped back, eyes closed, lips curved in a half-smile of devotion. Each gentle note seemed to breathe life into the seedlings themselves. He watched her for a moment too long. Then he cleared his throat enough to startle her. Maya spun, breath-catching, her song trailing off mid-phrase like a lilt cut short. She clutched the hem of her gown, face flushed under the harsh. "Mr. Hawthorne," she managed, voice trembling, I thought you'd be in the ballroom." He stepped forward, the floor grating softly under his polished loafers. "I could ask the same," he said quietly. "Why sing to spinach?" She inhaled, rising from her crouch beside the hydroponic rack. "It helps them grow," Maya explained, smoothing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "My grandmother taught me that sound carries energy. Plants respond best too well to care." He watched her gather the script of song from the edge of her lips. "Care," he repeated. "I've spent years perfecting nutrient mixes and light spectrums. I never considered," his voice hushed, as though voicing the thought diminished its gravity. "Music." A sudden buzz crackled through the terrace speakers. In the ballroom beyond, guests leaned forward as Lucas's recorded voice echoed. "Prepare to see the future." The curtains were parting. Maya's hand hovered above her chest where the spinach sprig lay pinned. "Is tonight the debut?" she asked, voice brittle. He nodded, eyes trained on her. "I thought the spectacle deserved more than statistics." His gaze held hers, a spark of something neither had anticipated. "I wanted to share this moment precisely as you create it." The soft whir of the hatch mechanism signaled that the ballroom reveal was moments away. Backlit through the tempered glass, Maya saw rows of guests poised like expectant birds. She swallowed. "You broadcast my song," he inclined his head. "Your melody, unfiltered. I believe the world needs to hear more than data points." A single beat of silence, then the hatch slid open fully. The emerald glow poured onto the marble below, cutting through the chandelier light like moonbeams on water. Cameras flared upward. Reporters murmured, stepping back from the edge of the ballroom to glimpse the terrace spectacle. Maya's heart thundered. She glanced at Lucas, his face calm, unreadable. In that moment, she saw both ally and enigma. Everything she thought she knew about this project had shifted. A collective gasp rose from below as Maya realized. Her most private ritual had become the centerpiece of Lucas's grand vision. Would she embrace this unorthodox spotlight, or retreat into the shadows of her hidden garden? That single moment changed everything. But how? Maya's knees trembled as she descended from the rooftop, each step echoing in the hushed corridor. Beneath the marble arches, pallid light revealed the whirl of cameras and the startled faces of guests. Her cheeks burned, not from the heat of the leads, but from raw, unexpected humiliation. She had meant her lullaby for fragile seedlings, never to soundtrack a billionaire's spectacle. In the ballroom, Lady Beatrice Sinclair's cool gaze dissected every flutter of Maya's dress. Whispers spilled like gossiping sparrows. Who is she? Is this performance art? Did he just exploit her passion? Maya's stomach nodded. She had walked into Lucas's vision with hope. Now it felt as if she'd been set upon a stage, trapped in a spotlight that revealed her vulnerabilities. A sweet-faced assistant in ivory gloves offered a silk handkerchief. Maya pressed it to her lips, tasting both rosewater and her own embarrassment. In that moment, she longed for her grandmother's modest backyard, for the forgiving shadows of tomato vines, for the soft hum of cicadas instead of invasive flashbulbs. Behind the silvered columns, her best friend and fellow urban gardener, Iris Chen, caught her eye. Iris slipped from the crowd like a wisp of wind, closing the distance in 2 quick strides. She reached out, fingers brushing Maya's elbow. "Hey," Iris murmured, voice low but steady. "Ignore them. You're brilliant." Maya's chest ached with conflicting emotions, indignation that her private ritual had been weaponized, gratitude that someone still got her, and fear that this moment would define her career forever. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the thrum of her heart beneath the emerald silk. Iris guided her behind a velvet screen, where the scent of sandalwood was stronger. "You okay?" she asked, worry glinting in her dark eyes. Maya exhaled slowly. "I don't know. He broadcast my song like it was a marketing ploy." Iris tilted her head. "Maybe it was, but your song worked. Look how they listened." For a moment, they weren't just watching numbers or projections. They were listening. Iris offered a small, encouraging smile. "What would you do in Maya's shoes? Comment below." Maya's breath caught. Could vulnerability be a strength? She swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm not sure I want to be the center of attention like this." Iris squeezed her arm. "Center stage can be scary, but it's also the best place to show who you are." She glanced back toward the rooftop entrance, where Lucas still lingered, remote in hand, watching the aftermath of his gamble. He wanted the world to feel your passion as you do. A low murmur of excitement rose among the guests as murmured praise for Lucas's innovative reveal grew. But Maya couldn't shake the gnawing question. Had she been heard or merely used? In the cocoon of darkness behind the screen, Maya closed her eyes and reached for her phone. She thumbed a message to her grandmother. "They heard my song, but at what cost?" The screen blurred with unshed tears. Outside, the ballroom glittered with applause and speculation. Yet Maya felt utterly alone. Yet in the aftermath of that stormy hour, Lucas Hawthorne stepped through the velvet drapes as applause thundered in the ballroom. His tailored tuxedo caught the light, every seam and pleat immaculate. Yet his eyes, dark and thoughtful, sought Maya amid the crowd. He raised his glass in her direction, offering a measured smile. Maya emerged from behind the screen, spine straight, shoulders squared. Iris fell into step beside her, whispering, "Go on, claim your moment." She inhaled, stepping into the glittering room where every gaze now lingered on her. Lucas extended a hand across the polished marble floor. "Maya Sinclair," he announced, voice carrying over the buzz of speculation. "Will you join me on stage?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some intrigued, others skeptical. Her heart hammered as she ascended the dais. Beneath the chandeliers, she spotted reporters poised with microphones and CEOs leaning forward, captivated by the unfolding drama. Lucas guided her to the microphone stand beside his. He cleared his throat. "Tonight wasn't only about hydroponics or projections," he began. "It was about authenticity. Maya's song breathed life into these seedlings and into our mission." He swept an arm toward the unseen rooftop garden. "I invited Maya here because her vision, her soul, deserves the world's attention." A soft murmur of admiration grew. Maya's cheeks warmed as she considered her next words. She glanced at Lucas, searching his expression for sincerity. Finding only steady encouragement, she drew a breath. "Thank you," she said, voice clear. "I've always believed that growth needs more than nutrients and light. It needs care, connection, art." She pressed a hand to her chest, recalling her grandmother's garden. Music, stories, community. These are the true fertilizers of hope. The audience leaned in. One influential investor, mid-sip of champagne, set his glass aside. Enraptured, he nodded slowly. A tech mogul tapped away on his phone, likely sharing real-time praise. Reporters exchanged excited glances. Lucas smiled, a small, genuine curve of his lips. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out and threaded his fingers through Maya's, guiding her to the terrace entrance. "Come," he said, voice low enough that only she heard. "Let me show you what comes next." Disoriented, Maya followed. Behind them, the ballroom erupted into applause. As the guests pressed forward to witness Lucas's next move, Maya emerged onto the terrace once more. But this time under stark moonlight instead of soft, Lucas led her to a sleek console beside the hydroponic racks. He tapped a sequence, and the LED grow lights pulsed from green to soft violet. From speakers hidden in the trellises, new music began, a composed piece melding Maya's lullaby with dynamic orchestral swells. Her breath caught. "What is this?" she whispered. He turned to her, eyes reflecting the shifting lights. "A collaboration," he said. "Your melody, my resources. Together we can create gardens that thrive and stories that move the world." Maya studied the musical tapestry weaving through the garden, felt the hum of the machines sync with her pulse. It was beautiful but unsettling. Was this genuine partnership, or merely another spectacle? As the final chord faded into the night air, Lucas brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. "What do you think?" he asked softly. "Shall we let the world see the heart behind the harvest?" Below, the terrace lights beckoned, anticipation crackling in the air. Maya's fingers still tingled from his touch. What will she choose? But were his intentions truly to help? A week later, Maya stood before Hawthorne Industries' boardroom, glass walls revealing the city's pulsing grid. At the polished table, icy matriarch Eleanor Prescott tapped her diamond-tipped manicure against a dossier. Beside her, Lucas's father, Martin Hawthorne, cleared his throat. The air crackled with ambition and whispered agendas. Reports of cost overruns and untested technology lay in neat stacks. One journalist leak accused Maya of reckless art projects, undermining ROI. Another insider hinted Lucas had sacrificed profit for sentiment. Maya's palms grew slick as she recalled the warmth of the rooftop lullaby. Could compassion survive here? "Music won't feed the masses," Prescott said, eyes steely. "We need scalability, projections, profit margins." Martin nodded. Lucas exchanged a tense glance with Maya, his quiet rebellion against the corporate tide. In that moment, she understood. The true test lay not in lead spectrums but in standing firm. Would she defend her vision or yield to boardroom pragmatism? When the truth finally broke, was hope still possible? Late one evening, Maya found Lucas alone in the rooftop garden, under violet. He cradled a teacup chamomile she guessed steam curling like morning mist. No cameras, no board members, just the hum of pumps and a gentle breeze. He offered her the cup. "Tea?" he asked, voice softer than she'd ever heard. She accepted, warmth seeping into her fingers. They wandered between basil and baby spinach, speaking in whispers. Her childhood experiments, his lonely childhood aboard corporate jets. He showed her a hidden art corner he'd built, a sketch of her lullaby notes etched on steel. She pressed fingertips to the metal, feeling resonance beyond words. For a heartbeat, the world outside ceased to exist. Their eyes met in the dim corridor of green. A subtle spark ignited, a promise that empathy and industry could entwine. Their eyes met in the dim corridor. At a charity gala for urban farming, Maya's ex, Daniel Reyes, appeared in the crowd, sharp suit, sharper smile. He cornered her by the raffle table, inquiries laced with regret. "I heard about your work, you always had a gift." His eyes flicked to Lucas across the room. Maya's heart fluttered between old affection and new loyalty. Daniel revealed he'd funded a rival vertical farm prototype. His offer, partnership, resources, returned to simpler collaboration. Her breath caught. Could she trust him again, or had his ambitions always eclipsed her dreams? Voices of the past surged, her grandmother's caution, Lucas's unwavering support. The words hung in the air, what answer would come? A flashbulb barrage lit the press room as Maya and Lucas stood before microphones. A whistleblower produced documents alleging data manipulation in the hydroponic yield reports. Gasps swept the crowd. Journalists shouted questions. Is this true? Will production stall? Lucas stepped forward, voice calm. Our data is transparent, and here's the real evidence. He unveiled side-by-side comparisons. Neighboring urban farms fueled by diesel generators versus their LED and sound-enhanced system. Yield was up, energy use down. Each chart told a story of innovation and care. Maya added, art and science are complementary. Data proves our methods work and our hearts prove why they matter. Clicks and scribbles marked the shift in tone. The final piece of evidence lay on the table. What next? Under the gala's candlelit glow, Maya and Lucas planted the inaugural spinach sprig in the global demo farm, beneath banners heralding hope through harvest. Guests watched as emerald leaves brushed fresh soil. Tears glistened in Maya's eyes. Lucas's smile was unguarded, genuine. He bowed his head, voice thick. To those who believed in the unseen power of care. Maya placed her hand on his. The crowd exhaled, tension dissolved into applause and heartfelt cheers. In that moment, all past sorrows were laid bare. Humiliation, boardroom battles, old heartbreak, they converged into a single pulse of triumph. In that moment, all past sorrows were laid bare. Months later, Maya launched Songs and Sprouts, a community workshop teaching children to sing to seedlings. Backed secretly by Lucas's foundation, every session ended with a shared meal grown from their urban farms. Laughter and melody mingled with the scent of fresh basil. Yet one secret remained locked away. Lucas's own childhood lullaby, the one he'd never shared, still hummed in the heart of his private journal, waiting for the right moment to be sung aloud. Yet one secret remained locked away. And so, dear listeners, our drama of devotion and ambition draws to a close. Maya's song has fed more than gardens, it's nourished souls. Lucas's empire learned that compassion can yield the richest harvest. Thank you for joining this emotional roller coaster. What will you sing to your own gardens? Share your story below, like, share, and subscribe for the next tale of love, intrigue, and transformation.